Hello, and welcome to App Transformers More Than Meets the Eye. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about your WebSphere traditional ND clusters and how we have some new tools and enhancements that can help you in your modernization of those clusters. So first we'll start with some introductions. My name is Alex Motley, and I lead the WebSphere migration tools team here at IBM. And I'm joined by some of my colleagues today who are going to be walking us through some of these new enhancements. So we'll go around. Liam, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure, Alex. My name is Liam Westby. I'm a developer on the WebSphere migration tools team. I specialize in cloud and mainframe and a whole bunch of other weird places to go put your apps.
Awesome. And John Payne?
Hi, my name is Jianfen Kong. I'm a developer in the transformation advisor team. So mainly is working for the migration bundle and the data collector. That's it.
Awesome. And Cindy?
Hey there, I'm Cindy High, WebSphere Migration Tools Architect. Happy to be here today. Let's get going.
Awesome. So as I said, today we're going to be kind of talking about a new way of handling some of your WebSphere traditional ND clusters in the modernization flow. Historically, we've kind of looked at application modernization with a very application-centric view, looking at things application by application. But we found that that is not always sufficient for some of the environments that our customers are working in. So Liam is going to kind of take us through a demo here of one of those types of environments and walk through how our tools are able to help. So Liam, I'll pass it over to you.
All right, thanks, Alex. Let me just go ahead and get my screen up on the screen. It's only slightly redundant. Perfect. Looks like I'm sharing my screen. So you should see right now my WebSphere traditional admin console. I'm going to start this presentation by sort of setting the scene for you with a scenario that I had. So I'm the administrator, we'll say, of this environment. And so I have a dynamic cluster. I have a couple of static clusters. I've got a whole bunch of apps installed. And what I'm going to do today is I'm going to show how we can use Transformation Advisor to take these applications not only individually, but on their clusters together and move them to Liberty on Openshift. So let's take a look at what I've got here for you. We'll start with my dynamic cluster here. I have two nodes where I have members of this cluster. So I've set it up here with three members per node, vertical stacking. So that's 6 servers total. I've limited it to 4, so I can have 1 to 4 of these servers running with my applications on them as resources demand. Now, some of the other features that I've enabled on this cluster are some of the advanced ND features that allow applications to work well in a clustering environment. For instance, I have set up session management and distributed session management where I store my HTTP sessions in a database. Now, the application I show you today will not actually use sessions, but this is one of the things that we can bring over to Liberty if you do. Another feature that I've got is the transaction recovery settings set up. So if I go into my transaction service settings, I can show you that I am actually saving my transactions to a database so that if one of my dynamic cluster members goes down, either because of an error or just because the intelligent management decides it needs to shut down and there are transactions still in flight, another server in that cluster can pick up and recover that transactions and make sure that the database isn't locked forever, that sort of thing. So I've got that all set up. And then what I've got on actually deployed on here is an interesting scenario. Oops, I guess I'll go here because you don't want to look at all of my applications. I will go to the install application setting here. So what I've got here is it's a legacy application with a bit of a story. That basically I have this application called Roller, and I'll demo that for you in a second just because I think it's neat. But we'll consider Roller to be sort of a legacy. Maybe it's an application where it's got a lot of business logic. You don't want to touch. Maybe it's from a vendor. Maybe the team that used to work on it has all left the company 10 years ago. And so it's just kind of sat there as kind of an older application. It's important, but you don't really want to make too many changes to it. But let's say a couple of years ago, you really wanted to come along and create a new user interface for this application. You really wanted to freshen it up. You couldn't touch the core of the application, but you could come along and provide a new user interface using more modern technologies. I mean, this is on WebSphere 9, so you could adopt Java EE7. You could do like a React app. And so what you did is you came along and created a separate application for the user interface. Now, because this application was so old, the way to actually access the business logic in it is to make EJB calls over a local interface. There was no remote interface. They just provided a local one for you. So that's how you're getting into this application. And so what I'll show you is the new user interface here. So this application will say it rolls dice for you, basically. And we'll pretend that it's got the industry best business logic for rolling dice locked up in that ear. So I can just come in here and I can roll the dice. And what's happening in the background, and I can show you a little bit of the code, is that I'm doing a React sort of client request to a JAX-RS endpoint here. And that endpoint is going to be, oh, where did I put my endpoint? Sorry. Is right here. So this endpoint is injecting this bean from the other application. It's going across the ear boundaries to go get this application using an interface that is configured as a shared library. It goes and gets an actual enterprise Java bean, which I just had here. This one here, this is what actually knows how to roll. So we're crossing these ear boundaries, and we're doing it with a local interface. So what that means is that these two applications need to be on the same server in order to work. That UI cannot get to this bean if they're on separate JVMs. Now, previously, our functionality in Transformation Advisor and the config migration of the binary scanner kind of assumed that you were going to go application to application and separate them out. That's a best practice for running in Kubernetes if you can do it. So what I'm showing you here today is what we have for new functionality when that's not possible. These two applications need to be together. When I am going through here and clicking on this roll dice, I mean, it is making a call from one ear to the other locally to get me this result. And I got very lucky that that was the same number. So what we want to do here is we want to modernize this application to Liberty on Openshift, understanding that we can't separate these ears anymore. We've got to keep them together. And the functionality that's come out in Transformation Advisor 3.3 and the binary scanner release that we just did is going to help with that. So I'm going to go ahead and come in and just show you. You're going to see a lot more of Transformation Advisor when Jean-Pierre does his part of the demo here, but I am going to go ahead and just sort of get us started. So I'm going to go, I have Transformation Advisor deployed to OpenShift here. So I'm going to go ahead and log into my TA. And I'm going to go ahead and create a new workspace here. And we'll just call this roller because I care about migrating the roller, even though there's more applications that we're going to see assessments for. So then what I would do is I would download my data collector, send that to the machine, which we've already done for you. And I'm going to run it. And what that's going to do is upload the data to here. So I'm going to, in the interest of time, I'm going to show me starting this data collection, and then we're going to switch over to John Feng, who's already got the data collection uploaded, and he's going to walk you through what it actually looks like. So to get started here, I'm just going to give you some more text here. So I've already downloaded my data collector, and bear in mind it has a slightly different name just because I hadn't created that one yet. So I'm just going to go into the Transformation Advisor 3.3. Remember, you're going to need to use the latest version in order to get this functionality. But then I'm just going to do a bin/Transformation Advisor. That's the script that collects the data. -W says, here's my WebSphere install. It says /was90. -P, I want you to scan a specific profile. In this case, it's called App Manager. I'm scanning my deployment manager because it has access to all of the apps deployed to all of the nodes, so I can get my broadest assessment of all of my application estate. And we'll see that when we look at the actual assessments when John Feng shows you that. So I'm going to go ahead and kick this off. And then at this point, it's going to launch a process that's going to take about 5 minutes. So I think what we're going to do, oh, it actually, okay, I already had a collection here, so it just said you don't need to do another one. So I'm going to go ahead and clear that out so you can kind of see it working for a second, and then we'll switch over.
And a question with this, Liam, are there any special, parameters you need to put when you're running the data collection to kind of, collect this extra cluster information, or is it, always collected?
Nope, this is always collected. As long as you're using the new version of the data collector, again, you can download the data collector from TA 3.3, or you can grab the binary scanner at the latest versions and use the --TA scan standalone. Both of those places, it will automatically collect this new data. Provided you're scanning an actual TWAS profile, it will grab it all for you.
Okay, so it's not something you need to kind of plan for in advance. You can just do your data collections as normal, and then kind of, as you're talking with the app teams, maybe figure out if there are applications that need to be deployed together or not.
Yep, that's right. And we're going to see here how the TA user interface actually makes it very evident what kind of clusters you have and what you may be able to do with applications grouped together. Awesome. So as you can see, this has already started. I've got 13 apps to do. So we're going to go ahead and switch over. John Fang, do you want to go ahead and share your screen and get going? Thanks.
Yeah, let me share the screen. Okay, I think the screen is sharing.
Yes.
So this will be the transformation advisor UI. So like Liam just created a new workspace. This is the workspace I already created and uploaded the collection result to this workspace. So when you're running the data collector, if your production machine can connect to the transformation advisor server, the result will automatically upload to the transformation advisor server. You don't need to do anything special. But if like your product machine is in a private network, your TA server is in another network, you can manually go to here, try to upload your collection zip file to our workspace. So when you use the TA 3.3 data collector, it will automatically detect the cluster information. And after uploading, we will generate this cluster for you. You can see in this collection, there are 3 clusters. And the number of it is showing how many applications is inside this cluster. So for example, in here, for this, you can see there are 7 applications running inside this cluster. For each application, you can still get the migration bundle for it. The migration bundle is a bunch of the deployment skeleton files you can use to deploy your application to the cloud environment. So in here, we just generate several files for you automatically. This will be the server XML file you can try to running your application in the Liberty runtime environment. It will contain all the features you needed, and it will contain some JDBC, the configuration, JDBC driver, or your data source information you needed for your application. So the other ones is for the JVM. This is also detected from the original TWAS environment. Normally, it has some environment variable defined, and it will automatically record it and generate this file. In the runtime, this environment can pass into your application. So the POM file is not used by default. Basically, is if you have your application source file is in another Git repository and you want to build your application dynamically, you can use it. We already during your build your Docker image, So this Docker file is we used to build the Docker image for this application. In here, so by default, the Maven is not enabled. So basically, if these two commands is not used, which means it will not use the POM XML file. But if you want to hook to your own Git repository, you may need to uncomment this file and do some modification in the POM XML file to build your application dynamically. And also, this is the deployment script file you can use to deploy your Docker images to an Openshift environment. So again, all these file is mainly some skeleton file. You still need to do some modification for your specific application. So this is the migration bundle for the single application. In the previous release, we already have this function, but for the 3.3 release, we provide a new function for the cluster migration. So if in this cluster, you click the cluster migration page, it will get you to the new UI. So it will indicate how many application is in for this bundle and what is the cluster type. But here, it is just a static cluster, and your replica number, it will be the same as the number you defined in the traditional WAS admin console. So for the server XML file, it will be a little bit different. Now it will contain the feature list and include all the application-specific server XML file. So it will wrapper file. So and all these application, all this deployment file is aggregated for all the application you try to include. So this will be the application. Also, if your cluster is only one application, you can also deploy this. This is the example for only one application is running in the cluster. For this one, it indicated it comes from a dynamic cluster. So for that dynamic cluster, we will also, you will see the cluster type is dynamic and the replica will be 1 to 4. It will depend on the monitoring function. In the deployment script, we will automatically set the replicas and also enable the CPU monitoring for you. So let's go back to the application view. So in here, you can see there is some issues for this application. Right now, you can go inside this one to see a detail about the analysis view. So for example, this one contains 2 jar files. And for this jar file, it can one issue. You want to detail about this issue, you can just collect the name. So you expand this one, it will tell you what kind of issue you hit. And basically it gives you some which file it's existing, and also have some suggestions for how you collect them. Basically, you need to collect these issues first to fix your application. Then you go to download the migration bundle to try it to port your application running in the cloud environment. So let's just go to use this as an example. You try to develop a cluster container and running these two applications. You can directly download the migration bundle for this application. So you download the bundle, you can go to here, download. You can open this one, the zip file. You can see it. So in the top level, we have include the README file. We can include the Docker file. So basically, you just run the Docker build command here, try to build the Docker image. And later, you can publish this Docker image to your registry. So one thing is for your application, this will also generate the placeholder file. You just, how many applications this image will contain. You just copy your real application binary file in here with the same name, then you can build it. Also, for some dependencies, you can find the dependencies file in the source, in the lib directory. For this directory, we list all the dependency jar files for these two applications. So you can just copy your dependency jar files here. And when you build it, all these files will automatically copied to your Docker image. So this, in the configuration, we just have the server XML for this cluster. For some reason, if you want to debug the application one by one, we provide the apps directly. This contains application were included for this cluster. So in each application, you can also invoke, we also contains the Docker file, which means if you just copy your one application in the target directly, invoke the Docker command to build an image, you can just deploy one application for the Docker image. And you can do your debug or test in here. This is just to save your time.
And so that's key, really, is that this is kind of, setting you up either to run the applications together, in a single server, because they need to be deployed together. But you can also then individually run the applications, maybe if you need to do any development or debugging of single applications and don't want to kind of have everything running.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I want to add one other thing. If you've used TA in the past, there used to be an upload function that these placeholders in the file structure are taking the place of. There's no option anymore to upload that file just to get it put in the right place. Make that whole process a little easier.
Yeah, we found that users tended to just have too many files that they needed, and that uploading was slower, and they prefer to just download without doing the upload and put the files there anyway. So these placeholders are just a nice indication of what probably we're already going to want to do.
Yeah.
And for the detailed instructions, we have provided the online document. So here is the online document. It's just to teach you how to deploy a single application. It's just a very detailed step by step. So you can try to do it by yourselves. Another thing is, in this release, when you upload to, so when you in your workspace, you have all your applications listed in this workspace. For example, I just want deploy two of my applications in the same container. I can just select these two applications and try to add to a group, which is I create a new group for it. You can just say, create a group. So the group will create it. This is just the arbitrary number of applications were inside this group. but it may not come from your original cluster. So by going here, you can still download the migration bundle for these two applications and make a Docker image for running these two applications.
And the key thing to remember with an arbitrary group of applications is if they were coming from maybe WebSphere installations that were different versions, there may be some conflicts with kind of the feature lists that are produced. So that's just something to keep in mind for any kind of groups that you've created. You may need to go and kind of make some of the feature lists consistent.
Yeah. So also, just in mind that the things, all the deployment file we generated is just a skeleton file. Maybe for the server XML file, if you contain some private key or some username, password for your data connection, you need to modify it or need to build it, write it to your own deployment script to use a secret or something which is in this details document. We already talk about this, but basically there is some separate step you need to complete to make your application will be running in the cloud environment. I think Leon, you will show you how to build it and make it running on the cloud environment. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Was there anything else we wanted to cover before I take over and do that?
I don't think so. I'll just say, yeah, while you all are switching screens, that is kind of a key reminder is that, passwords and usernames, key stores are not going to be, collected by the Transformation Advisor data collection just for security reasons. So you'll need to go, fill those in your new environment. And Liam will probably show that here.
Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and do a bit more of a development deployment for these applications, just in the interest of time. But yeah, one of the powerful ways that you can use these migration bundles is that even if I've got severe issues showing here, even if I'm pretty sure that my application is not going to run right away, it's still really useful to be able to pull down this migration bundle and get a deployment going so that when my application team is actually making code changes to try and rectify some of these issues, I can plug it right in and try it out. And at the same time, I can just try it out without any code changes and see, is this severe issue actually in code that gets used anymore? A lot of applications accumulate a lot of dead code sometimes, and it may be that my application will actually work, even if it is severe. It's worth a try, and the migration bundle really accelerates giving that a try. So what I want to do here is go ahead and take everything that Jianfeng showed us and put that into practice with our roller app. So just like he showed us, I went to my app dynamic cluster here, and I went and I pulled down the migration bundle, including both applications, the one that sets up me to have a dynamic scaling environment that sets up my transaction logging to a database. And I went ahead and I downloaded that here, and I did some changes, like he said, to get everything into place. So I replaced my placeholder files here with the applications. I replaced my placeholder libraries with the jars. And I went into my applications config and I set up my library. So I'll just show you here in one of these. Oops. I went in and I set up the library file with my local interface as is required for Liberty. I set up my common library ref that happens to the roller UI, and I also did it here to the other one. So we've got the EJB local call ready to be set up and be made on Liberty. I'll show you here as well for the transaction, even though I may not have had transaction peer recovery set up in WebSphere traditional because I had clusters where each server, if it goes down, it just restarts and it's able to recover its own transactions just fine. In Liberty config here, we will set you up with transaction peer recovery, and this is really powerful for Kubernetes or any environment where the server is actually destroyed when it is shut down and a new one is created and started, because in that environment, you won't have a server able to recover its own transactions because a server never starts twice. So we put everything into a peer group based on, in this case, it'll be an app name. We give them an independent recovery identity so that no one gets confused. And then whenever one pod is killed and another one starts, some pod is able to recover the transactions from the pod that was killed, basically. So I've got that set up. I've got my database set up. I've got credentials going in here that not best practice to just plug them right in, but for the interest of time, we're going to do this. This is a development deployment. As you go towards more of a pre-production deployment, you would start to use things like a vault to store your secrets. You would store some of these variables out into config maps. You can use that to have one image and then just say, oh, my dev database is going to be on one host, but my pre-prod database is on another. So I'll just set the pre-prod database host name and pour it in a config map and apply that as environment variables. Liberty will pick all that up just fine. And even key stores, trust stores, certificates, all that stuff can be configured in a much more secure way. Here, I've gotten rid of some of the SSL config just to get everything going for you. So what I'm going to do is take this migration bundle and I'm going to deploy it. So I'm already logged into Openshift here. I've got my demo project ready to go. I'm in my migration bundle here. So you can see I've got the top level Docker file, which will build an image containing both of my applications, which is needed for them to work. I also, under the deploy, have my application CR YAML. This will actually provide the WebSphere Liberty application operand. I have Openshift set up. I have gone into Operator Hub and I have installed the WebSphere Liberty operator so that I can create WebSphere Liberty servers using that operand. So we are ready to get started. The first thing I'm going to do is use a pretty neat feature, I think, of Openshift. So because I don't have Docker on my machine right now, I still want to build that image, and Openshift can actually do that. So I just do OC new build name. We'll call this one roller app. And I needed to see that syntax. So we're going to take that syntax there and then just rename it. So I'm going to create a new build called roller app. It's a binary build, so it doesn't expect there to be source code here. And the strategy is to use a Docker file to build it. So it is creating for me a new build in Openshift. And then I am going to go ahead and tell it to OC start build. And it's called roller app. So I'm going to start the roller app build. I want to upload my current directory for it, and then I'm going to follow it. Now, this is going to take about 5 minutes to go through. So I'll just show you the beginning of it working, and then we'll move on to something I've already done. But the idea here is that I do not need to have written a Docker file myself. It came down in the migration bundle. I put all of my files in the right place. I've got all the config changes made that I need to do. And so now what's going to happen is that it's going to run this Docker file from the migration bundle. And in a second here, we'll start to pull the first of the 2 stages and get to work. Let's see. Yep, so it's pulling down the adopt OpenJDK. I suppose we could actually just go look at this Docker file. One of the things I did want to call out that it does is it kind of tries to overlay the configuration. So we will look at looks like it looks at the top level config for the cluster first and pulls that all in. And then it will do the same thing. It will reach down in each of the apps and it will do the same thing, bringing over both your apps, your config, and any libraries as well. So that's all in this first stage here that we do that. And then once that's all assembled, then we're ready to start the second stage, which is based on our WebSphere Liberty from the App Cafe repository. We're going to do a kernel one. Go build an image that's just got the features that we specified. And then it will put our applications in there. So it looks like it is, I think this is still part of the, yeah, so we're getting ready to copy everything into place here. Okay, now we're starting the WebSphere Liberty build. So we're moving things into place within the WebSphere Liberty image. That will be our final image. Now this is the longest stage. It's running configure.sh, which is downloading just the features that we have specified in our config. It's also going to sort of warm the caches for a faster startup. So it's actually starting the server and stopping it a couple times in the background in order to get the shared class cache nice and ready so that when you deploy this image and the image actually starts as a container, on OpenShift, it starts much faster that way. So while that's underway, I think what I'll go ahead and do is show you the, oops, a little lost here, show you the operand that we're going to use to deploy this application. So again, you get one at the top level for the cluster, and then you also get specific ones down in each application here. You get, looks like you get separate root deployment root service if you don't want to go with the WebSphere Liberty application here. But at the cluster level, you just got the, oops, you've got the application CR YAML. So, oops. So it's kind WebSphere Liberty application. That is the custom resource definition that the WebSphere Liberty operator brings with it. I have specified an environment variable here just to make our logs human readable. Normally they come in as JSON for integration logging tool, but I just want to show them. See, because we came from a dynamic cluster, we've got auto scaling set up, and I had a minimum of 1 and a maximum of 4 replicas that could have been started at any one time in my old environment. So that's what I get here. The application image, so I've specified, I'm going to specify roller app, which is the image stream tag of the build. So when you create a build, you automatically get an image stream tag in OpenShift with the same name. That means that I don't need to specify the actual URL of the image registry service in my cluster. I can just give the name. It also means that once I've deployed it once, if I make changes and then rerun the build again, it will automatically pick up those changes and redeploy for me, which is nice. Expose true means I'm going to create a root, which I want, and then license accept true. I'm using Liberty base, so I don't need to specify a different kind of license information. The defaults here are good. And then manage TLS true just means it's going to use the cluster, a couple of facilities to handle TLS. It's not really going to do much for us just because I took out all the special TLS config in order to do the demo a little quicker. So let's have a look. It looks like our build is done. That means that the image was pushed, and now we are ready to go ahead and make our new deployment here. So I'm just going to call this, I'm going to call my deployment roller app as well, just so I can distinguish the old and the new here. So we're ready. We've got our image pushed and built. So it's time to just do an OC apply-f deploy application CR YAML. That'll create the new WebSphere Liberty application object or resource, and then the operator will kick in. It will do everything it needs to create the new, oops, I'm in the wrong workspace. It'll do everything it needs to do to create the new resources, including the pod here, which is running. So let's go have a look at the logs. We're starting up. Looks like the applications have both come up. Their web applications are available. The features were installed, so everything looks good there. So we'll go ahead and just check it out. My roller app got a new root. And when I go here, of course, we're using the default certificate, so it's self-signed, so I just need to bypass that. And then all I need to do is type my context root for my application. And here it is. So the application at least loaded, so the UI one is working, but now here's the real test. Does the local EJB interface call across the ear boundaries still work? So I'll just do a bigger roll here so we can see some bigger numbers, and I click, and it works. 23, 35, 29. It's all working. So what I've just done there is taken two applications that need to be in the same JVM, and with a single migration bundle from Transformation Advisor, I got both applications deploying together. I got the operational considerations from my dynamic cluster. So I got my scaling, I got my transaction stuff, and I got it all working and running on OpenShift on Liberty in the space of a single demo. So I hope that was a pretty illuminating session for you. And please feel free to ask any questions about how I did anything.
Yes, definitely. And that was great to see. As Liam said, if you have any questions, please go ahead and ask those, and we're happy to address those. And, while you're thinking through some of those, in terms of the operational considerations, this will handle, the dynamic clusters, the static clusters, the transaction logging, as Liam showed, as well as session persistence to a database, correct?
Yes. Yeah, we'll also actually, and we didn't show this off, but we'll also give you further advice. I did mention earlier there was advice, I think we mentioned earlier. No, I'm sorry, that was another presentation. So we're talking about database for transactions and sessions. There is also the case that you might be using, say, memory-to-memory session persistence or transaction logging to a file. Those are a little bit more difficult for us to configure for you, but we can give you advice on that. So if I go into my dynamic cluster here, I can just go drill down onto one of my apps. Let's pick this one here. I want to come down here to the inventory report where you can get a little more detailed information. And now if I jump down here, oh, wait, we don't get that jump on this one, but if I come down to operational considerations, I get a little diagram here of my topology. I also start to get some advice here on my dynamic clustering transaction logging to a database. So if I had, say, memory-to-memory session replication or transaction logging to a file, even though I don't get configuration in my server XMLs, I would still get sections here giving me advice on how to recreate that, where to go. So for memory-to-memory, we'll recommend you should look into some sort of JCache provider, like, say, InfiniSpan, DataGrid, Hazelcast, that sort of thing. And we'll give you some pointers off to documentation. For transaction logging to a database here, we still point off to some documentation for you. And it would be the same if you were doing transaction logging to a file, just so that even though we couldn't configure it for you, we'll still give you pointers to how you can go configure it for yourself.
Right. And as we gave you a starting point for your number of replicas in your Kubernetes deployment and started with the ND settings, you might find they're a little different. Yeah, you might have to adjust those. We just give you a starting point and something to work with to make it easier to see how those correlate.
Awesome. Really trying to, kind of accelerate your adoption.
Exactly.
Okay.
I have one more question. There was that one issue in the logs. Was that happened to be in code that wasn't used, or is that something you had updated, Liam?
On the severe issue on the report for the library, that's just code that's not being used.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's what we do. You try it out. Oh, my application works. Okay, where is this actually having a problem? Oh, it's in code that's never called.
And it really is a good point, because we do see that in static analysis quite a bit. While we do look to try to figure out best we can if code is being used or not, it doesn't hurt to give it a run.
Mm-hmm. Actually,
right.
I think
over the years, I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, we know over the years, you write something, you update it, maybe you leave the old code there, and we all know that we've all seen it in applications, right? So it's definitely something to keep in mind. There are limits to static code analysis, and so that there are times where it may just be dead code that's not being used. So it's not even necessarily something you need to address. Maybe then another just to remove it.
Yeah, because you might see that line hit, you might go to it in your ID, like I just did, and see, oh, there's no use to this. Just delete this.
Yep.
It could be that simple. It could be you need to make code changes. It could be that your application starts and the basics work, but when you go to click on one button, then everything goes south. It's just a matter of getting into that part where you can do a real test on the destination and operational environment, and where you can do that tight dev test repeat loop. Once you've got your application in the deployment that you expect it to be in, it becomes a lot easier to just say, okay, here's version 2.1, give that a try.
Exactly. Okay, well, this has been great. Cindy, Liam, John Payne, anything else you want to add, or any final questions?
No, that's all I've got.
Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. This has been a great session, kind of going through some of the new functionality we put in to try and help you as you're migrating some of those clusters of applications that perhaps need to be deployed together. So thank you for joining us, and I hope you have a great day.